in terms of the symptoms of ADHD, it's obvious that we have problems with attention. Now, we have both problems with awareness and control of these issues. Now, because we are not quite aware of our attention, where it goes, we drift off and we don't even notice that we've drifted off. Therefore, we struggle with control as well. In order to have control, we need awareness. And same thing with impulse. Our awareness of our impulses. ADD people just jump on impulse a lot of the time, and they're not even aware of doing that, and therefore they struggle with controlling those impulses. Same with time. Our perception of time gets distorted at certain times, and so our awareness and perception of time is distorted. Time can speed up or slow down, and therefore we will struggle with controlling time and, for example, planning our life and scheduling, being on time. Social etiquette is another area where there is problems with awareness and understanding of social etiquette, and therefore problems with controlling or complying with social etiquette. Now, energy levels, obviously, with hyperactive, but it's not always hyperactive. It could be hypoactive, which is the opposite. When some ADHD people lose their focus or start hyperfocusing, their energy actually drops down. They get slower. Their internal clock slows down. And but clearly, there's struggle with awareness of energy levels, and if my internal clock goes up, my experience, I'm likely to experience the environment slowing down. Everybody is too slow for me, but I don't necessarily experience myself speeding up, because my perception is speeding up along with my energy levels. So I'm not always aware of my energy going up or down, and therefore struggle with control of it. Now, all of these issues that we're talking about are issues with recognizing and managing boundaries. And boundaries are what we use to control or establish order out of disorder. And I'm sure you've often thought about ADHD person or felt like an ADHD person is out of order. Now, order can apply to behavior, and it can apply to our environment, and even energy levels. And you can see this word on the slide here. There's order on one side and disorder on the other side. And I have created a boundary between them. Firstly, by creating a space between the two words. Secondly, I have put a slash between the two words. That is also used to establish a boundary. And thirdly, I had one word in blue and the other one in red. That's another way of creating a boundary. There are lots of different ways that we create boundaries and establish boundaries. And this is one of the issues that ADHD person struggles with. Now, if you can see, I'm just going to move this this window here. And you can see that there are kind of paradoxes, there are opposites often. Each person can have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. We can talk about strengths and weaknesses. We can also call it advantages and challenges. Or we could even go as far as calling it gifts and disabilities when we see it in kind of extreme polarization. And the first one, obviously, is huge energy, which is a great asset in sports and various projects, business projects, any kind of projects that needs huge energy. This is a great asset. But equally, the downside or the challenges can be that it's exhausting for the ADHD person, but also people around them. Zest for life, passion on one side, that's a strength. But people that are that passionate, they can be very demanding, both of themselves and others. And but also because they are passionate about a lot of different things, they might not complete a task. So that's a challenge. Big picture thinking, patterns and trends, they tend to see patterns and trends. So of course, we're not talking about every ADHD person having all of these strengths. There is a mixture of, this is why two ADHD people may be very, very different. But this big picture thinking and seeing patterns and trends is part of why the British Intelligence Agency seeks out neurodiverse people to hire to process their data. But on the other hand, the weaknesses in big picture thinking is that you can ignore or miss certain important details. Communication is another potential strength. Sales and entertainment. Most stand-up comedians are either dyslexic or ADD. On the other hand, they can be isolated, be very happy in their own company, and can also appear inconsiderate because we'll come to that later. Why that is? It's because they don't really understand consequence of their actions. And so they have lots of unintended consequences. That's one of the most common symptom of ADHD, unintended consequences. Now, reading, you can get hyperlexia, like Elon Musk, for example, is hyperlexic. He's not ADHD, he's on the autistic spectrum, but equally you can get dyslexia on the other side. Same with maths, you can get geniuses like Albert Einstein and Ronald L. Davis, who created the Davis methods, or you can get dyscalculia, like we've been discussing. Hyperfocus is another strength, potentially. It produces lots of strength in creativity and lots of high level of detail, understanding and knowledge. But on the other hand, they can be unaware of the environment when we are hyperfocusing. When I hyperfocus, for example, I'm not aware of what's happening around me. Knowledge. This is an interesting point, generic and specific. There is a high level of curiosity and hyperfocusing and huge energy in this, and that results in high intelligence. We will also see how this kind of person is using a more efficient way of thinking, which can process more information and faster than the average person, which results in high intelligence. On the other hand, it can be, especially if you're a teacher with a child like that in the class, their questions may seem irrelevant simply because they organize their knowledge in their mind in a different way from the average person. Now, creativity. Obviously, creativity is very important in inventing and designing. Lots of inventors and designers are dyslexic or neurodiverse. But on the other hand, non-conformity is an issue because they may struggle with fitting into a standard kind of working hierarchy or standard business structures. So they often create their own businesses. And very successfully, by the way. Out-of-the-box thinking is another thing here, that in entrepreneurship, creating your own business, seeing opportunities where other people don't. Richard Branson is a good example of that. Very high level of entrepreneurships, which is why we tend to have them very highly overrepresented in successful business people. But on the flip side, they can hate routine and repetition. And that's an important thing to know also in the education environment, that routine and repetition is not a good way to teach a person like this. Curiosity is a key component of both dyslexics and ADHD people, and it results in extensive knowledge, often very specific knowledge, but extensive as well, because they need to get the full picture in order to anchor new information into their existing knowledge. But of course, curiosity also results in distractibility. And these are paradoxes like I mentioned before.
This video was produced by Gifted Dyslexic, and for further information please visit our website www.gifteddyslexic.com. We are licensed by the Davis Dyslexia Association International, and for more information on training and interventions globally, please visit our international website www.dyslexia.com.